So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live people, and working with my homemade books. This is the first one that I made, and it's from the Cathy Autor paper bag. And of course I was obsessed with a Victorian and James Tissot, a Victorian artist, and this is a letter that he wrote. I've got my dad's letters he wrote to my mum during the war from Burma, and these are the ones he wrote to her, and I also have the set that she wrote back to him. And because I've used them this size, I photocopied them on paper and then tea-dyed them. And all these are photocopied and tea-dyed, tea-stained or tea-dyed, and I grunged up things like it's a bit Victorian, and I made lots of little tags everywhere and little pockets, and just grunged everything up. And I love making books, really like making books, and I made this, and this was going to be part of my degree show. It was making books, but they didn't like that idea, so that kind of went out the window. So I've been making one or two other ones. I've rescued a Victorian one, and I love this one, and it's got bashed. And again, I photocopied the entire back of the book, and it has a gold clasp, but obviously I haven't made one yet. And I've made you make little strips of cardboard to make the ridged edges. And this is all Victorian. These are all my designs that I've designed. This is from my mum's ledger, but I've made them small so you can't technically read them. Put them on lined paper and stamps, and they're all, they're all my designs from old letters. My mother's wrote little short stories, bless her, when I was little, and it's an ordinary old-fashioned hand typewriter, but it's gorgeous, old, what we like the old typewriter way. These are the original Victorian photo cards that are in this book. This is one I love. I made this one up as well. I love this. I took all the Victorian things from a book I have of free designs, and I put them all together, and I love this book, and it has a pocket. Everyone's a pocket at the front, and I love this design, and it was from, I nearly said a name then, Maria somebody or other, and I really like that idea. The spine is just bound round and round and round, and then you hide it, so there's some thread in there, and that's ordinary that's an ordinary thread. Oh no, that one isn't. That's pink string. That one. That's pink string. Then I was getting into the Copic stitching. That was my first attempt, so it's not brilliant, but the beauty of that is the books lie flat. Again, really grunged this one up, almost so you can't see it. Really grunged up. Quite enjoyed playing in there, making pockets, tea staining things. There's a little book. This is a book that actually sits in, so I made one into a book. It has pull out flaps, so it's got little pages in it, and I love hidden spaces, and made little tiny tags, tea stained little sticky tags and things. So love making books, and all the tops have all got tags. There's little books and little tags in all sorts of spaces. So I really like making these little books. Then I thought, I'll make a sketchbook. So I made this sketchbook, and I put lots of dangles on and things. So I wanted it to be kind of white and ivory. So I've made this ivory sketchbook, which has got quite a few little play things with it. These watercolour things you can buy. So I like that one. And then I watched a lady called Sea Lemon on YouTube, and I got a bit better at the Copic stitch. And again, she taught you to get a sketchbook, which was this size, and you cut the cardboard at the back in half, which gives you exactly 2 sides, back and a front. And then you just fold the paper in half and you make signatures, and then you sew the signatures together. And it's a sketchbook, but it goes flat. And then about that time the hobonichis came out, and I would have loved a hobonichi, but I can't afford one. So I made one, and this has 600 pages in it, and it's really thin layout paper, but it feels and sounds like the Japanese paper because it's very thin. You can see through it. It's not quite tracing paper. It's called liner paper, layout paper, and then in between each one is just an ordinary small dotted one, the same as I make out for my my inserts for my Midori. And I really loved playing in this, so I alternated them. I mean, I only did 1 page. I can't just write things down, it's not in my nature. But I alternated them to be lined, and so I just doodled in them. And of course, this is my my doodle. So I did a lined page and a plain page, and a lined page and a plain page, and it's gorgeous crinkly pages. And I might actually leave this out. And I made a case for it. In fact, I think I'm going to put it back in and play with it again and turn it into my hobonichi. But it's great for playing with colours and just having a play. And it will take a small amount. I think I was poorly then. Yep. The cat came to sleep with me, and oh, sorry, that was Dexter. Dexter came to sleep with me. When I'm poorly, all the animals come upstairs. But I loved playing with just a little book like this, and it's gorgeous thin paper. I didn't realise I'd done so much in it actually. But I can't do the hobonichi writing your life story because mine's so boring. But really liked having a play in there. And I love the fact that there's quite a lot of pages because they're only thin. They're only fine, and it feels kind of crinkly, so I like that. So then I thought I'd make another one, and then the Copic stick kind of went out the window. And I thought, well, if I can do this, I can do it again. So this has got half the paper, and this, I can't imagine how many pages this has got, and then it's got that folded out squared paper. But the layout paper is quite thin. I did have a book with it, I've got rid of it. It's a cover, and I buy A1 size, A3 sizes, which is kind of 4 A4s printer paper, and I cut them in half and quarters and things, and that was just with stitches going round into a bow. I can't remember where I saw that. I think it could have been Sea Lemon again. She makes lots of books. And I really like that because it's chunky and it's movable. So then I started to make a few books for the family. So tea dyeing with teals. And again, love the crinkly pages. And this is a cereal box, but I couldn't resist it. So again, I've covered it in brown paper, scrunched it up a bit, and then used that ordinary gorgeous cheap acrylic paint, but it's metallic and it's the best I've ever seen. It's fantastic. And that's what I made for this one. This is and that was another one that I wanted to play with pockets. It's made out of paper bags. So I love doing that, and so I thought, oh well, just be careful what I pile on where for weight. I'm going to ask hubby to put all those back again for me. So I do have a couple of shelves full of homemade books. Right, just made a bit of space. Which led me on to my junk journal. So I thought, when I first finished uni, I couldn't start doing anything. I'd lost my mojo. So I did like, again, the copper on brown paper, that cheap acrylic. But that's my little rotring pen, which I absolutely love. And it works perfectly on there. So I thought, oh, I have a play. I don't think I've done much else in here. I had a bit of a play drawing the girls, but I didn't really like doing that. I tried it, I've done some backgrounds, but the doodle comes back. If I want to play and doodle, this is a bookcase, and it has all my pills on it that I take. it was getting bigger and bigger. So again, playing about. It's like all those white flowers coming up. And there's some gold in there, doing backgrounds. But it's quite freeing. This is the other doodle that I created when I was 16 as well. And it was quite freeing. This is the original design. And I love doing it. I think they did this crayon. I think this is crayon. I think. But using cheap poster paints, cheap acrylics. I mean the kiddies ones, that the poster paints that you get in the big old tubes you used to have at junior school. So I love doing these. Then I just used all the dirty old paint I used as backgrounds, because it's a grungy background. It's fine, it's grungy. Again, this is my doodle. I can't be creative with circles for some reason, but I can mess about with my design. That, as I say, I did. So I loved playing in here, and it was very freeing, and it made me want to start to draw and paint again. And this is from Jenny Belly. Jenny Belly made a big, I don't know what she calls it, but it's basically her design. There is another one with the Copic stitching. I don't know if she did that with the stitches. There's another book. There's another YouTuber who makes these books, and there's Hocus Pocus with the eye. You grunge an eye up, and you put a snake on, and then you cover it with brown paper, and you do that. But I like this. And then when it's finished, I will put the beads on the end. But I didn't want to put beads on the end because it goes flat, so you can work in it quite nicely. And it's wallpaper. I made mine out of wallpaper. I think Jenny used ordinary watercolour paper. I'm too tight for that. But wallpaper, I find I can do all sorts with, and I found that really freeing. When I was colouring around anything small, you end up with these kind of pages, and I actually quite like them. So I stuck them in with a bit of sellotape, because there'll be a background for something or other. When you're working around something, you've got your square. So keep them, and then keep turning them over, and all sorts of things happen. And the same with the baby wipes. Things happen to them. Keep them, and some of them are quite ordinary, but I like some of them. Some of them are quite cool. Some of them are kind of, they're okay for a background, and then things go on top of them, and it adds texture without texture paint or buying anything. You just glue them down, and they're there. This is the wallpaper. I used a fancy wallpaper with a embossed, almost like embossed. I forgot, like anagliptin. And this one I just rubbed over that glue, that acrylic paint, and it's really, really pretty. So I love that. And this was a cornflakes box. I just cut it open, and I said Jenny Belly, I don't think what she used, but she folds the corners in so there's more strength there. And this has been kicking about for years, and it's held up, and I cannot believe it's brown paper and a thin cereal box. So a few months ago, I think, I decided to make a small one. Oops, sorry. Gosh, a small one. And I had some nice Laura Ashley paper, so I thought I would fill this one in. If it's upside down, it probably is. And I thought I'd use it as my small sketchbook. And I found these lovely large white beads. So it's got 7 signatures. And this is the biggest cornflake box that I could find. I went down the aisle of the cereals at the supermarket, and I found the biggest. I wasn't looking at what was in it, I was looking for the biggest box. And this one is 3 3/4 by 13 3/4, and I think it's about 10.5 or 11, because I finished the edges off here, oopsie, so that I can put a nice brass handbag clasp when it's filled out more. And in here is thin wallpaper liner and thick wallpaper liner and brown paper. And again, some have used that copper and gold, because I bought 3 bronze. I didn't like it, so I'm using the bronze. Love the goldy one. And then I've got some brown paper to draw on, like I did with the butterflies. So every signature has a bookmark. Which is a big chunky bead, because I thought you'd need to find out where you are. So different sections were going to be for different things, but because it's quite chunky, I haven't actually used it until the other day. We're having an avalanche yet? No, not quite. And I found, the girls found this down the garden in the shed, and it's a photocopy of a black and white sketch that I did with it's basically a Caran d'Ache crayon, but mine are a little bit chunky. They're called Neo Art, and they're a little bit fatter, and you can just dunk a paintbrush in there and start painting. And that's the one that my daughter did the cat on, the same way, just had the black and the white and was just sketching with that, and it worked really well. Oopsie. Got lots of, they found lots of photographs of, well, my degree show and things I did, so I thought that would inspire me, which it did, because I think it was last week I started to play about. I'd forgotten about my butterfly thing, and I had another similar experience with a butterfly as well. So I started to sketch again with a paintbrush and just a black. You can do it with this one. You can't get a big well in there, but eventually you will get a little hole, and you just fill it with water, and you can use the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 black. I have this Neo Art, which is a bit thicker, and you can, and because you're using it from here, and you just kind of, if you go near the edge you've got it darker, if you go in the middle you've got like a grayscale, and you can play. And I really enjoyed that. So I did this one, I think it was last week, and then I was playing with books, and I found the sketch of my daughter, which I think I'm going to do that next as a painting, but I'm not doing a big one. thought I'd done something else in here. Oh, I just started playing with the books. I thought I'd done something else. I had done one sketch in here. But it was inspired by my butterfly. And of course yesterday I had another butterfly up here. Oh, I thought I'd done another sketch in here, but perhaps not. Oh, it started the butterfly thing going on. So I really liked this, but it wasn't kind of big enough. I wanted to kind of do some big stuff. So I have a roll of brown paper. Now this could be noisy. And I unravelled it and thought, yes, this is what I want to do. This is what I did with the butterfly at uni originally on a big table. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do these butterflies and I'm going to work through the butterfly book that I have. And I'm going to paint them all. And I thought, oh, it's messy and it's getting crunchy and it's not easy for me to use. So on Tuesday I've been eyeing up this bag, and we sell them at the Abbey. There's one that's got I think it's got not Renoir, it's got the lily pond and the water lilies, and we have this one, and I thought, it's really pretty, is this? And then I saw how chunky it was, and it's 7 inches, and I thought, ooh, that would make a good book. The only thing is, if you're not brilliantly well, it's hard work. So I've made actually 7 signatures, and the pages were from ordinary wallpaper. I don't have the strength to cope it stitch it, and again I didn't actually have a big enough because I was making it to fit the bag, and I wanted to keep the handles, and I already have the one that's a portrait orientation, so this is landscape, and I thought, wow, it will lay flat when they're in there. So I haven't decided whether I'm going to just take string round or I'm going to actually use it as a Copic. But I thought if I stitched it, I could pull them out and slide them in and out. So I might do that. So I've cut the bag, and it's a plastic, so I'm not sure how well it's going to stick. And I don't like the pink edge, so I will just have the white edge like this. But I'll keep the handles. Now obviously I don't think you'll be picking it up by the handles because this is a big beastie. So this is what hurt my hands. And this was the size I was doing it. So I was cutting, I measured the length I wanted, but not the width. And then I was making the signatures. So all the signatures were this big. In fact, hubby was helping me because and I've torn all the edges with a ruler, and again I think that's what did it. So it got to this size, and then I measured across what I wanted, which was this one, which fits perfectly, and that left me this, and I went, actually that's really good because that's a really nice landscape size. That's really good. And then I thought, actually, why not put them in the book? You know, I will have short ones and I will have longer ones, big ones. So I've got that size, and then I've got, thank you darling, I've got this size. So what I have to do is to bind it, because I want to bind it. I'm not going to neaten the edge off because I think there's 10 or 11 sheets in each signature. So of course by the time one's here, there's a big gap. That's the difference you have here. But that doesn't bother me You can neaten it up if you want it to be really neat, but it doesn't bother me. So in here, I couldn't find any thin wallpaper. Wallpaper liner. This is quite thick. This is 1,000. And then I found this one, which I'm actually going to make another one this size purely of this paper, because I've got a funny feeling. Where's the white one? I have a funny feeling this one feels like watercolour paper. Now it isn't watercolour paper, but I'm going to try and do all sorts on this paper, and if it works then I'm going to make a whole book just of this paper. But I thought this is a wonderful size for doing those butterflies, instead of struggling with a big roll of brown paper. I can struggle with a big book. And again, what I will do is make, I will attach different things. I need to put these in the middle. So they will probably be in the middle of the next one. So what's the white paper? This must be the white paper. Let me just double check it's the right paper. Yeah, it feels really, really nice. It feels like watercolour paper, but it's very, very good quality. This was a more expensive one, but like a £5. It was a £5 instead of like £1. But it's a roll of wallpaper, and I don't have any more of it left. I've kept the receipt for it in the middle, so I can match it up. And I think it was 1700 thickness. So it's really nice, and that's going to take a watercolour, and it's going to take acrylic. It'll do whatever I want to do on it, and it's wallpaper paper. It cost me. I mean, I said to my husband, because he's looking at me like, why are you hurting yourself? And I said, well, for one is you couldn't probably buy a sketchbook this big, and the other one is you wouldn't. It would cost you a fortune, and then I'd be too precious to use it then. And we do have a standing joke in the house that I've bought one of those really, really big sketchbooks, which is nearly as big as one of these. It weighs an absolute ton, and I've lost it. Don't know what happened to it. It's gone, disappeared, and it's the size of 4 bricks. So I thought, well, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm not going to lose this puppy. But this probably will stay on the desk. It will take the place of the books, and it will not go anywhere because it's very heavy. So it is 14. No, don't be silly. It's 7.5 inches by 15 3/4 by 13 3/4. But I might tip that in a bit. So if I measure the 12.5 is where the pages are. The pages are 12.5, the big ones as well. Oops, excuse me. So that's a mighty little sketchbook. But I thought that would and if I did it in layout paper and brown paper, that's going to be really quite nice. So I might do one in brown paper, just purely brown paper, and then I can do all those butterflies in there, because I love working on brown with that black and white. Hi Miss Q, welcome to Bunny's Designs. So that was my little book, my little collection of books, and I said this is the end one that needs to be stitched in. But that was the lunacy that led to my little. This will be my painting sketchbook. This is my painting sketchbook. So thanks for watching.